Hi, how are you today? My name is Patrick McNamee and I'm the author of the book Strategic Management for MBAs. This is the first in a series of podcasts designed to support this book, and of course it is the preface, which will give you the sort of thinking that I had whenever I was developing it. Two primary drivers are the characteristics that most modern MBAs seem to have. One is the timeless characteristics of MBAs, that it really doesn't matter what decade you do your MBA. And secondly, what today represents contemporary best practice. In terms of the timeless characteristics, you can see them there. There's four things. Let's look at the first one, which is the content. MBAs are about breadth. They're not about depth. They're not about going to great depth in subjects. They're about width. So we tend to have multidisciplinary knowledge of accounting, knowledge of finance, knowledge of marketing, knowledge of human resource management, etc. They're about the breadth of things rather than the speciality. And also generic transferable skills. Anyone who has an MBA ought to be able to work in all sorts of industries, in all sorts of locations, and in all sorts of scales of businesses, because the skills that they learn are not industry specific. They can be used anywhere. A few other things that are very important. Good managers tend to be articulate. So this is a great and important part of the MBA, developing in our students their verbal and their presentation skills. It's also important that the MBA is seen to be relevant to the work that the student is undertaking. So the workplace involvement is very important. And one of the things that countless MBAs have said to me is the best part of it were the people that I met, the relationships and the contacts. It was a fantastic experience. Let's reflect for a moment on contemporary best practice. The biggest thing in my lifetime that has affected my professional life, my social life, every aspect of my life and all businesses has been the internet. We can call that Web 1.0. And we have seen industry after industry transformed. Think of the airline industry, think of the recorded music industry, think of all the things that you buy and services that you obtain through the internet. And what the internet has done in general is it has hugely increased the availability of all sorts of goods and services. It has given consumers tremendous choice. It has really driven costs down, and it is a very rich way of communicating which can reach right round the world. I think it's really a terrific tool, and it ought to be integrated into MBAs. We now are in the era of Web 2.0, where the creators of content are also the consumers of content, and it remains to be seen how that's going to affect MBAs. I think it's going to have a huge effect through student interaction. And of course, we're also just entering the era of cloud computing, which offers absolutely terrific possibilities for MBAs. That's more or less the philosophy that I had whenever I was writing this book. It just remains for me to acknowledge the hardware, the software, and the music that I used. It was almost all Apple. And finally, in terms of buying the book, there's a couple of ways you can buy it. You can only buy it through the web, by the way. You can go to Lulu and search for that title, which is the title of the book. Or you can take this link and paste it into your browser. And finally, if you wish to see some student presentations, some additional information, go to my website. There it is. And it just remains for me to thank you for listening, and goodbye.